And joining us now to discuss is federal defense attorney Ronald Chapman. Happy New Year, Ronald. Thanks for being here with us. And let's just dive right in. So along with making those criminal referrals and issuing a final report, the January 6th House Committee reportedly has turned over information to the Justice Department for the agency's own investigation. So how much does the committee's work help or even impact the DOJ's probe?
Well, in short, it may help, but it may also hurt the Department of Justice's probe. One thing's for certain, prosecutors like to do their work in secret. Here we have a very public committee that has met and gathered evidence. Certainly, they've got a hold of evidence that the prosecutors may not have actually had access to. But in this case, there are statements in that evidence that may hurt Trump, but also in some cases may somewhat help him. So the Department of Justice is going to evaluate that and determine whether or not they can move forward with these criminal referrals, as well as charges that they're looking at elsewhere.
So the evidence that's already publicly known about the insurrection, is that enough for the DOJ to pursue any of those criminal referrals, or would prosecutors want to know more? And if so, what would they want to know?
Prosecutors will want to know more, but with respect to the obstruction charge, I think that the investigation was sufficient to show that Donald Trump did, in fact, attempt to obstruct Congress on January 6th. We know very clearly from the evidence that was obtained that Donald Trump created a scheme to try to impact the election. He intended to do that. And ultimately, Pence is not going along with it is where that scheme sort of failed. With respect to the insurrection, the difficult part for prosecutors here is that we have statements made by Donald Trump. And the question is going to be whether or not those statements were intended to incite an insurrection, and also whether or not those statements were sort of taken out of context or misunderstood by these more militant groups to cause an insurrection that day. Certainly, Donald Trump's defense, if he is indicted in that regard, is going to be that he never intended people to storm the Capitol that day. He never intended to incite this sort of riotous behavior that occurred that day. Prosecutors will certainly be getting more information than they got from the January 6th committee. We've already seen subpoenas for emails and additional records that were not included in the January 6th Commission report. They'll bundle all that evidence up and make the best decision they can.
Well, and on Tuesday, we have a new Congress sitting. It's going to be Republicans taking back the House. So President Biden this year also may announce he's seeking re-election, and former President Trump already is candidate Trump again. So how much do external factors like these weigh on the special counsel Jack Smith and the DOJ?
Well, certainly the reason that Jack Smith is involved in this case is because Donald Trump announced his candidacy. And if he does, in fact, go forward with attempting to become the next president of the United States, I don't think that that's going to have the ability to halt this investigation. It's underway, and the train is continuing to move forward. That being said, if there's any bargain to be had by Donald Trump, it might be denouncing his candidacy in an attempt to engage in some sort of deal making with the Department of Justice to prevent an indictment. I'm certain prosecutors wouldn't want to overtly say that, withdraw your candidacy and we won't indict. But if he does, he may get a little bit more favor from prosecutors. Given Donald Trump's past behavior, I'm not so sure that we're going to see that happen.
And how fast or slow do you think the Justice Department's investigation will progress?
I think they're going to take the time that they need. And I'm hoping that they won't be rushed simply by the fact that there's an election. They have to do a very serious investigation in this matter and look through a lot of information. Typically, these sorts of investigations would take years. And if they hurry it just to indict prior to an election, the fear is that they may not get everything right and leave Donald Trump with more defenses on the table. I'm hoping that the special counsel takes the time that he needs and indicts when he feels that he has evidence of a criminal charge, regardless of whether or not that is before or after the election.
Federal defense attorney Ronald Chapman, thank you for your time today, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.